Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and you might be wondering, whoa Muda, you're really screwing out with the lighting today. No, I'm not. That's because we just got the club back, ladies and gentlemen. I have to hire like some new staff and everything, some good old-fashioned values have to come back. I might even get some music tossed in. I don't know, I'm talking to a few creators. But ladies and gentlemen, what's more important is the next thing of this video. And this is where things get a little dark. Virus investigation dark. Ooh, you can tell with the red lights, we're meaning some serious business. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to... Can we get some spooky music in here too, all right? Because what we're about to discuss is a 3-year-long fight between some cyber, terrible people, some really terrible hackers, some real script kiddie type hackers, and some of the best people in the security game, aka Google. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the last couple days, I've seen some wild articles sort of pop up, all right? Some of the stuff has been pretty fearmongerish, and I guess I'll cover it a little bit right here, real quick. The Joker virus has returned to Android. It can empty your bank accounts without you noticing it, and it is hidden in these apps in the Google Play Store. Woo! And here is Google banned this app. Save your bank account. Delete it now. Full checklist right here. A checklist we'll all be diving into. Now, ladies and gentlemen, something to understand in this entire situation is that as far as most banking applications are considered, you are reasonably safe, okay? A lot of these headlines are really, really misinformed in terms of what they're using. I guess it's a lot nicer to say they're draining your bank account, when in reality, your banking and financial applications have even greater levels of scrutiny. So don't fear, your bank accounts aren't hacked, and if you have like $10,000 sitting in a savings account somewhere, that's not going away, okay? So as far as the FUD is floating around in this situation, I'm going to dull it down right here. What's actually happening is something called SMS fraud, or rather, premium SMS fraud. Now, if you don't know what this is going on, you might actually remember the Joker malware. See, I removed this video during a period where YouTube's algorithm was getting a little freaked out with like scam videos. I had one of my videos strike, so I kind of removed a bunch of videos, and I'm actually glad that I did, because I want to retouch upon this, because in the last couple days, this malware has shown its rear and ugly face again. But the plot thickens even deeper, because while the media is calling this Joker, we should really be calling it Bread. See, this malware is known as the Bread family of malware, and it is a notorious piece of malware specifically targeting Android users and the premium SMS services that their phones are capable of. By doing this, these people are siphoning tiny amounts of money. When taken at scale from thousands upon thousands of users, millions even, we are reaching a critical amount of cash that is flowing from users to a bunch of hackers in parts of the world where enforcement, unfortunately, isn't really happening to the best of its ability. So the best that we can do is to at least give attention to a lot of people out there. Now, don't feel bad if you've been infected by malware like this, because it's actually quite sneaky. So, that being said, let's cover a couple things real quick. One of the important factors for this entire situation that I want to jump into are things known as fragmentation. Now, to understand, there are two big mobile players in the market. There's iOS and there's Android. Chances are, if you have a cellular device, it's either from one or the other. Now, for iPhone users, you don't have to look too far into this. For Android users, this malware is targeting you. Now, to understand, fragmentation basically means that people are on different versions of each of these operating systems. Now, for iOS, the big benefit of it is that because they're on a limited number of devices, and every time Apple releases a new software update, your phone usually gives you a giant ping and tells you, hey guy, update to the latest iOS version. Now, Android devices do the same, but Android, being a much more open platform and one that comes in all ranges and sizes, has multiple price ranges and multiple devices. And because of this, you have multiple versions of Android running concurrently. So to give you an example, if you're on the highest end of the spectrum, meaning that you have the most expensive Samsung Galaxy devices or whatever premium Android brand exists right now, you're probably in the good, okay? Meaning that you're on a very relatively recent Android version and you're getting security updates every month. Now, if you're on a mid-tier Android device or even a low-tier Android device, the potential of getting a hack is far larger. You may not have the most up-to-date version of Android. You might not be getting security patches from the person who is vending your phone. So in reality, it's kind of a crapshoot. The people that are mostly affected in this scenario are the individuals that have lower-end devices and mid-end devices as far as my research goes. Now, for higher-end devices, like I said, you're probably fine in terms of security patches, but even even then, to understand how Android works is Google will work the Android source tree. If you look back to the actual, Mudaphone video that I made, I downloaded Android from the Android source, and then I compiled it for a Google device. Now, if you have hardware, proprietary binaries, you could compile that same Android operating system for whatever device, provided you have those, hardware binaries. Now, in terms of how these large handset manufacturers work, they will take Android, once given and updated by the Android developers, they will take that source code and modify it to their own devices. So what actually happens in this scenario is, while the most recent version of Android comes out, it may take weeks, maybe months, for it to come out to other handset manufacturers. And because of this, we may have differences in security versioning and what kind of features that we are protected from, what kind of exploits that we're necessarily protected from. Again, it's getting better, but fragmentation is a key sort of struggle for Android users, and I personally don't know if we'll ever truly fix it. But that being said, why this is important is the applications that we'll be looking into. Now here they've written, according to Google's recent report, having 3 or more active variants of Joker on their official app market at the same time is very common, and at peak times of activity, there are up to 23 different versions of Joker family submitting to the Google Play Store in one day. Now, to understand where this is kind of coming from are a bunch of things that Google has developed. So this is Google's on-device protections, right? So this is Google Play Protect. If you use an Android device, you've probably noticed on certain apps that it has Google Play Protect. To give you a quick understanding, is Google Play Protect includes on-device capabilities that help keep devices and data safe. These on-device services, integrated with cloud-based components, allow Google to push updates that constantly improve their functionality. So if you download applications that are Google Play verified, there's a pretty good healthy check that Google has assessed the application, and you should be fine. That application will not be able to do anything nefarious to your finances, to your device, and what's so going on. Again, that is to say, some things do slip through the crack, but generally Google is trying to at least combat this. Now, some of the malware categories that they've hit around over here include backdoors, billing fraud, stalkerware, denial of service. What we're looking at is billing fraud, specifically SMS fraud, code that charges users to send premium SMS without consent, or tries to disguise its SMS activities by hiding disclosure agreements or SMS messages. We'll look into this a little closely. Now again, I'm not entirely sure if Apple is free from either of this, but Google, as far as I know, has multiple SMS apps, okay? You can download a whole levy of them if you felt like it, okay? Because basically, because Android is an open enough operating system, you can use multitudes of applications for a lot of these, deep-ended services. So for instance, on Samsung, when I buy a Samsung device, it comes with Samsung's messaging application. Nothing is stopping me from downloading another messaging application. Something like, say, WhatsApp. I think Facebook Messenger does text messaging now for Android users. Nothing stopping me from downloading Google's own messaging service and using that instead of what Samsung provides. See, the openness is something I can appreciate, and in a lot of ways, it's what I prefer. But of course, this level of openness comes at some level of a security cost, specifically targeting individuals who may not be as technically aware. Now, what's interesting is Google's security blocks. This is a closer look at what we're actually assessing here. So here they're talking about Bread, which they started tracking in early 2017. Bread is basically designed solely for SMS fraud. Now, a TLDR of the situation is Google Play Protect, which we just looked at, removed 1.7 thousand Bread apps from the Play Store before ever being downloaded by users. Of course, there were some apps that slipped through the crack. Google is trying their absolute best to monitor their store, and this isn't exclusive to just the Google Play Store. There are plenty of app stores that exist. I wouldn't doubt that the Samsung Store, the Amazon App Store, or various app stores have various amounts of Bread malware. So the idea is Bread apps originally performed SMS fraud, but have largely abandoned this for WAP billing, okay, which we'll actually get into, following the introduction of new Play policies restricting the use of the send SMS permission and increased coverage by Google Play Protect. So in order to stop this, what Google initially did was they restricted the SMS permission, but then they started to switch from SMS fraud to WAP billing, okay? So now it's starting to evolve. And why Google is not able to catch up into this is something we'll look at real quick. Now, one of the questions that I guess people ask is, Muda, why does Google allow this on their store? And the reality of it is, it's a lot harder to remove this stuff than you would think, because these guys obfuscate really well. We're talking string, data, API obfuscation, whatever. And because bread apps typically bury a lot of this malicious functionality in things like messaging applications, where SMS makes sense, in things like photo applications, where a lot of these network functionalities make more sense the more you use them. See, the reason why this doesn't really happen, the reason why this gets by so much is that with a large enough store like the Google Play Store, or really any Android-based app store, having a bunch of security researchers to audit every single application for bread malware, which, by the way, changes piece by piece by piece. Like I said earlier, there are various variants of this malware floating around. Google is doing, without a doubt, the best that they can. And without blanket blocking people from using these various services that they allow underneath Android, there's almost no easy fix to this situation at all. Again, all we can really do is educate people to not download shady looking applications, which we have learned throughout history is actually quite difficult to do. Bread apps sometimes display a pop-up to the user that implies some form of compliance or disclosure, basically terms of services. How many of you read your terms of services? That's a good question. But what's interesting is they even lie about what's on there. For instance, Google here says that the app is a place to be and it will feel like a superhero with this new app. We hope you enjoy it. Other versions included all the pieces needed for a valid disclosure message. So sometimes they leave out pieces from the disclosure, sometimes they keep them in. So basically, one of the translations Google has is, apply car racing clip. Please enter your phone number for service details. Terms and conditions in 9 baht per day. So 9 baht, for those people who are wondering, let's just do a quick translation into USD, a quick conversion. Yeah, that's about a quarter. Now imagine, a quarter doesn't sound like a whole lot of money, right? I know 9 baht a day doesn't sound like much, but imagine if you had 10,000 users infected and you were sending one SMS from each of those users every single day. That would be like 90,000 Thai baht translated to around 2,700 US dollars. See, initially, if you look at the 27 cents, it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you get even that amount of scale, that's how much money you're going to be raking each time you transact from each server. Each time the command server that's hacked those phones, the botnet that it is, every time it communicates to those 10,000, phones and tells them, hey, send this amount of money, that's how much cash is being sent. Again, multiply it from 10,000 users to maybe even 100,000 users that are infected. That's what we're looking at. That's the amount of money some of these people are making. Now, they also mentioned, please stop the V4 printing service, and they tell you a number to call. Now, Google says there's a problem with that. The numbers are not actually real. So even if you try to cancel it, they're not real. And sometimes the billing process still commences even if you never hit a confirm button. Again, they try to make it so seamless and behind the scenes that anybody can fall for this if they run and launch these applications. Now, then you've also got people who launch fair reviews, and Google gives you some examples like, so good, very beautiful, later, deception, the app is not honest, when the real users start kicking in, right? Of course, that's why you look at the reviews very carefully. If there's a whole lot of 5-star reviews from when the app launched and suddenly it's all 1-star reviews, run far away. That's bad. This is an analysis by Mr. Cooperins over here, who actually did a check of these premium subscription bot malware that's on Google Play, primarily right now. You can see that underneath a lot of these applications, many times when they're initializing during their splash screen, they're oftentimes using this obfuscated code to look through where the person is located. So whether they're checking languages, your GPS locations, your phone number in some cases, they're able to find out where you live. And from this, let's say they find out the country you live in, they'll send you to an appropriate command server for that specific country. Again, that's to get you signed up onto these premium SMS or WAP billing services where they're charging you, again, the 20 cents a day. All right, it doesn't sound like much, but go back to that explanation of scale. It's a lot of money. Here's a good thread by a researcher known as Black Holes, who ended up showcasing a pretty good example right now. So on the 23rd of June 2020, he posted this specific application, Language Translator, right? Rated PEGI 3, by the way. Wouldn't seem crazy, it's just a simple language translator. Again, why somebody wouldn't just use Google Translate through the web, I don't know. But again, that's one of the apps. As you can see, it's been basically removed. It's not there anymore. But let's go down the entire situation. Assessing this application, they found out that this one was specifically trying to isolate where the user was from. So again, if they found out that the target was from Malaysia, they would send them to a command server for Malaysian hacked users, right? By taking you to a command and control server, you would download the phase 2, which would then try to get you on a lot of these WAP billing services. So for those people who are wondering what these WAP billing services are, well, let's look at it real quick. These are various URLs of these services. One of them is Oho Mobile. Now, what is Oho Mobile? Let's open it up real quick. Now, as you can imagine, you get a bunch of things, okay? You can get yin-yang symbols. You can get presents, something that I can't show on YouTube. But what's important here is one of these services. So this is a horoscope check, right? A pretty popular type of WAP service or a premium service that somebody would go for. Now, if you click on this, you'll go all the way down, and what's important here is look at the very bottom in the situation. Or sorry, right here, this string of characters. We're going to Google Translate this, and I'll tell you what it reads. Now here it says 3 bot per messages, sent 3 messages per day. So that excludes the 7% and the internet service piece, so 3 bot per day. Now that goes up to 9 bots, and if they're sending it 3 times a day, that's literally a quarter a day that one user is sending. So imagine if they have 10,000 people infected in this botnet, that again, factor in the scale. That's why this stuff is profitable. If even 5,000 people fall for it, let alone 10,000 or 20,000, these people are well in the green, okay? That's how these scam operations work. So I was reading one of these articles, again, that just came out recently, and they showed some of the apps that were removed. Again, these aren't all the applications. These are only some of the applications that Google Play Store eliminated after detecting that they contained the Joker malware. So here it was: auxiliary message, element scanner, fast magic SMS, and free cam scanner. I think I've learned anytime I see free on the internet to run far away. Not even just run, fly far away. Now again, let's look closer at some of these, okay? So for instance, this is auxiliary message, right? Now these were applications that you cannot download anymore, from what I understand, right? Google has removed them. In fact, let's try to get auxiliary message. Yeah, auxiliary message. Auxiliary message. So you can see that there's like some level of a search history in the algorithm, but yeah, it's effectively removed. But that doesn't really mean anything when there's like a million SMS apps that exist. How many of these could potentially contain the bread malware? I don't think we'll know until we get a proper full assessment of them. But if we go back into the situation, you can see that according to the screenshot that was grabbed, some of them had 10,000 downloads. So again, let's go back to that scale argument. 10,000? That's a lot of money. Free cam scanner got 10,000 downloads. 10,000 downloads for Element. Travel wallpapers. Yes, wallpapers always baffle me. I can go on Twitter right now and download a picture of $1 million rock JPEG NFT and make that my wallpaper. I don't need an app to scam me, okay? I can go on the internet to find myself some really expensive JPEGs and have a good time. Fast Magic SMS at 5,000 downloads. 5,000 downloads. In fact, the worst performing one here was Go Messages with only 1,000 downloads. I'm real sorry for that one. God damn. What's also interesting is when people started to chase this is by Invictus Europe, who actually ended up doing even more research and tried to understand where these downloads were coming from. How were they getting 10,000 downloads? Surely it can't be organic. Well, it turns out some people have decided to find out that these were actual advertisements right here on YouTube, right, ladies and gentlemen? So for instance, one person here shows Bob's Camera, right? Now these are Joker Trojans, right? Bob Camera and Crazy Clean. In fact, if we go in, type in Bob Camera, we'll find out very quickly that Bob Camera doesn't exist. But guess what? There's like 1 million camera applications that already do exist. How many of these could be compromised? That's an interesting story right there. Again, don't download any of these, all right? They're mostly designed to harvest and steal your data, okay? A good chunk of the very, very unrecognizable ones. I'm not saying there aren't any real ones in this list. There definitely are, but I would never download any camera application that has the permission to use my camera and send files over the internet, okay? It's just not okay. So if we go back to Bob Camera, right, this like weird application, you can see that it looks like your standard Instagram filter application. But then the plot thickens. Turns out there was an advertisement on YouTube, of all places, of Bob Camera. Now, of course, you can see the actual owner, Lance, all right, and go back, Lance, it is in fact Bob Camera, the same application. But what's interesting is during the YouTube ad, they really start showcasing some augmented reality measurement mechanics. I can almost guarantee you everything that I have that this doesn't exist within the application. A lot of these BS applications typically will just copy from one another. It's not what the content doesn't matter. What matters is as soon as you open this application, they want to abuse you, get you on a WAP exploit, and now you're suddenly siphoning cache over and away. So then you go down even further, you'll find outline wallpaper. Again, how much of these are legitimate applications, who knows? And they're not just doing this on YouTube. Don't take this as just a dig on Google or anything. These kind of advertisements exist heavily on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on any platform that allows advertisements at all. And again, if you see an advertisement like this that's blatantly lying, please do your best to go to YouTube or any of these social media sites and report it to them so they remove these advertisements once and for all. Ah, Stepbox? Dude, that's like the same ad. That's the same ad, man. And look at that. Some of them have downloads. 18,000 downloads, 2.4 thousand downloads. It's wild, man. Now, to understand, ladies and gentlemen, this is how they're spreading these actual applications, by hiding them in advertisements, getting people to download them. This is why people who don't know what they're doing with these devices, typically individuals that aren't technically literate or people that don't look into this stuff as deep as me or other people, will sometimes mistakenly download these applications. And once that's done, the bread malware is doing what it's doing, and they might end up siphoning this stuff out. Now, to understand, ladies and gentlemen, again, it's not entirely anybody's fault. This stuff has gotten so good and so clean that almost anybody can fall for it, okay? Shit, two weeks ago, I almost fell for that YouTube scam floating around, the AdSense YouTube scam where they were terminating channels. Jim Browning fell for it, and he's the god of scam baiting. So to understand, this stuff is getting so good that people are falling for it all around. Again, the people that I'm catering to, you guys, I hope I've taught you enough to be very paranoid about this stuff, okay? Rightfully so. But to the average Andy out there who doesn't know anything about controlling their devices or protecting their devices, they're the ones that may be the most liable to fall for it. Again, it's also a mention that anytime an application exists, you do not have to download it. Please don't do that. Please don't download any application. Don't download every single thing on the App Store, okay? If something looks really shady, if something has like spelling errors in its title, there's probably a good sign not to download it at all. Now, there's also a few things that you can do depending on the devices that you have. Since you're on an Android device, there's nothing stopping you from going up and bringing down your notification drawer, going into your little gear menu, and inside your gear menu in your settings, this might be different depending on what device you have to find the app settings, right? And in the app settings, if you click on the three buttons at the top, the little extra settings, and you go to special access, and then you go all the way down. This is just for Samsung phones. It might be different again for your device. What you want to do is you want to go all the way to use premium text message services. And hopefully any app that you don't explicitly want to give those permissions to will not show up in the situation. This, my friends, is a healthy screen. Nothing is using premium text message services from me. So in that case, I should be pretty good. Again, make sure to check your devices and the various apps that you have. But ladies and gentlemen, this was a fun little dive into a piece of malware that frankly is causing a lot of problems. It's not emptying your bank account necessarily like a lot of these websites will fearmonger you into believing, but to understand, if infected by some of these applications, you may potentially be sending quarters. And again, that's provided you're not maliciously infected by multiple strains of the bread malware. And you might be siphoning some premium messages, some actual tiny micropayments to a bunch of hackers who have basically made a botnet of infected people and are siphoning cash out of them every single day. So I want you to really understand, this is something you have to watch out for. And really, it's easy to pin the blame on Google, on anybody, but in reality, the only way to truly fix this is education, and that's what this video is for. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have at least understood how to protect yourself, the applications that you shouldn't download, why you also shouldn't trust a lot of these bargain bin mobile ads for games that appear all over various forms of social media and the internet. And as long as you can protect yourself, hopefully you shouldn't be infected by this. And let's say that you are, check your billing very carefully with your cell phone provider or anybody, because if you start to see like 25 cents sent every single day to some random WAP service you never signed up for, contact your cell phone provider immediately. check your phone, scan it, do whatever you have to. Protect yourself. And honestly, help pass this video along to like people who don't know any of this stuff anyways, so we can protect more people. And if you don't want to pass this video along, at least take the information that I've given you and help, educate the people in your family who aren't exactly technically literate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, with a juicy little virus investigations, and I am out.